What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the TCG Empire YouTube channel. Today we are going over Trash Deck Thursday. If you're new, you're not sure what that is. It's kind of where we take the deck of the week, pair it against something that might have a better matchup into it, kind of see how it goes. Now, I have spent the past, I want to say 2 hours trying to find a game against Edward Newgate with the OP3 format, but sadly nobody has the deck built, or, I ask people to play it in the ladder, and sadly I can't. So we're just going to be discussing the deck here, talking about some ways in which, it possibly could do well against Whitebeard. So we do have the Kuro leader. This is a 5 life green leader. Its activate main is pretty good, I would say. Activate main, you pay 3 Dawn, and then you may rest 2 of your East blue character type characters as rested, and then you can set that leader as active, and then rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. This is really good because Whitebeard tends to play Marco as their blocker, and they don't really play any other little blockers, so this is usually what they go with. And so if they have one on board, or you've already dealt with one, you can technically swing with leader for 6k, force a card to dump, and then you can, trash or rest 2 characters on board that really might not be, as beneficial to, swinging the matchup, and then you can rest another Marco. So the leader is really good. And then we do have 4 Ezo. Ezo's a 2k counter, as well as if you play it, you can rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a 4 cost or less. Whitebeard plays the 4-drop Marco as their blocker, and so you can really just deal with that. Then we have Carrot. Carrot is just a 1-of in this deck. I got this list off of One Piece top decks, so we're going to talk about it. Carrot's good because it is a 2k counter, but also at the end of the turn you can set one of your Dawn as active, which does work in, compensation with Punk Gibson. So you have more Dawn to work with during your turn, and then you guarantee that you have at least 1 Dawn that can be restood in order to work well with everything. Then we have Tony Chopper. This really isn't going to be as beneficial in the matchup as you want it to be. Most of their characters don't have a 2 cost or less. It's mainly just going to be a 2k counter. But if you ever run into a situation where you want to rest one of their buggies or just kind of clear their board and go that way, you can. Then we have the 1-drop 3000 power Alvida. This is really just so that way you can, use the Kuro's ability to rest 2 characters. You can rest the Alvidas. They're not going to be as beneficial, as you do have to attach 3 Dawn in order to swing with them, but they are 1-drops, which is nice. It could put some early aggression. Then we do have 4 Jin. I did talk about Jin in the Tech Tuesday. It is good because if your leader is East Blue, you rest up to 2 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less, so you can actually rest 2 blockers just for 4 Dawn, and it works very well. Another card appearing from Tech Tuesday is Craig. On play, you may trash 1 card from your hand, and you can KO up to 2 of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 4 or less. And then after you trash the 1 card, you can possibly KO their Marcos, and depending on where they're at in life, they can't bring them back, so it is really good. And then Dawn times 1 against double attack, so you have an 8000 swing. They're going to have to dump 2 cards if they don't have any Dawn open, so it's super solid. And then we do have 4 of the Kurobi. On play, if your leader's East Blue, you rest one of your opponent's characters. There's no requirement as to how much Dawn the character has to cost. You can rest any character, which means that you have the chance to really go for lethal if you need to, but also take down some big characters. And its trigger is that you play it, and then you can rest any card, which is great. Then we have 2 Django. On play, you can choose one of the effects. You can set one of your leader cards with East Blue, or character cards with a cost of 6 or less are active. Really solid if you're trying to go for lethal or big swings. And then you can rest this character and up to one of your opponent's characters. So you can really choose anything that you want. This deck is great at being able to really rest anything that it wants to. So it's a super solid card. And then we do have 4 Cho. Cho on play, KO up to one of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 4 or less. Trigger is to play this card. This deck is very trigger heavy with most of its characters. So it's really solid at being able to really wipe the board. Whitebeard tends to play more characters in the late game, but as they're building up suspense, things like that, you do have the ability to kind of block attacks and then keep control of their board, which is really good. And if you can't KO something, you can still rest it to possibly swing on it and dump cards out of their hand. Then we have 4 Nami. On play, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 East Blue type other than Nami, add it to your hand, and place the rest on the bottom in any order. Just a solid search card. It does cost 2 Dawn to play, which is a little bit unfortunate. Most of the Namis cost 1, but it does have a good trigger as being able to rip it from life and play it, and then search top 5, so it could add a little bit more consistency to your hand. Then we have 4 Pearl. This is just your blocker. It's really nothing else. It's just to kind of help build, your hand size while you're figuring out exactly how you want to approach the matchup. Then we have 3 Buggy. This card can't be character KO'd by the slash attribute. I believe Whitebeard plays a couple of the slash attributes. I could be wrong, but either way, it is a 3-drop for a 5k body. 1 Dawn, swinging 6k. It hits the leader, which means that technically speaking, they still have to drop a card. And then we have 4 Hatchman. The trigger, if you rip it from life and your leader's East Blue, you can play the card. And it is a 4,000 body, so 2 Dawn, it's a 6,000 body. It's really good. And it's also a 2k counter, so it has a good trigger, it has a decent power, and it has a good combo power, which works perfect with everything. And then you have Punk Gibson. We all know what Punk Gibson does, but you can gain 4,000 power and then rust one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. This means that if your opponent swings and you Punk Gibson, then going back into your turn, those characters will be rested that you might, put in rest mode. And due to the nature of Marco being an annoying blocker, it is a 4 cost, so you can still rest it with Punk Gibson. And then we do have 3 I Will Become the Pirate King. This is the promo. On your main, your leader gains 1,000 power during this turn for each of your characters. So it's super solid, and its trigger it's pretty much like Radical Beam. It just gives you plus 1,000 for the turn. But it's super solid as if you have a full board of characters, you're giving your leader plus 5,000. So that means you're at 15,000. And you can actually stack these. So if you just decide to, I'm sorry, not 15,000, but if you just use one and you gain 5,000, you're a 10,000 leader and you have 5 Dawn remaining to use without using the ability. So you attach 5 Dawn. You've used 2, you have 3 left. That means you're a 15,000 leader, and then you can activate main, set the character as active again, rest one of your opponent's characters again, and then go for another 15k swing. So overall, really strong green deck. Green tends to do well against red because even though red is aggressive, green has the board wipe potential, and after a while of exhausting red of resources, there's not much that they can really do. And with having to deflect against kind of bigger attacks, they have to dump more cards out of their hand, so in the late game, it's really crucial. This probably is a safe bet to play against Whitebeard, especially with Moby Dick being banned. So, yeah, I think that's really it. I'll try and get a gameplay at some point with this deck because it does look really fun. Maybe we can look at it next week for Meta Monday. I'll figure that out though. But either way, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you did enjoy it, smash that like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Otherwise, I will catch you guys in tomorrow's Final Standings Friday.